Hey guys, I am out here in Escalante in some beautiful Badlands around us. And today the goal is to try to photograph some fall colors against the Badlands. This has been a goal for a number of years now, but I keep on seeming to miss it. So trying to do it this year. I was out here last week with a friend. We were flying some drones and I saw that the colors had not quite turned yet. So I'm back. There's a few trees that are still kind of lemon lime and a few that have actually already lost their leaves already. So the goal right now is to just kind of walk up this riverbed and go back into this valley and try to find one of these trees that's still yellow and include it against the Badlands. I want it against the Rainbow Badlands, and goal is to just kind of use telephoto to compress them to get them right next to each other. All right guys, so I've spent the last hour walking up and down this river, and all of these trees are either really close together or they're completely devoid of any leaves, or they're still really green. So it is not what I envisioned, but I did find one really nice tree back here, and it's still got a little bit of green, but it's mostly yellow and it's got all of its leaves. And more importantly, it's a completely lone tree. So it's standing out very well against the backdrop of these colorful rainbow Badlands. And so I'm across the banks of the river right now. I had to get very far away from it so that I can shoot it with a telephoto lens to really get that compression that I want, to compress it and get it right next to these Badlands to make it feel like they're almost touching each other. And so let me talk a little bit about my settings here. At f5.6, there was just too little depth of field, so I ended up having to stop it down all the way to f18 to ensure that everything was in focus. Overall, I wasn't exactly thrilled with the photo. I like the composition okay, but the lighting isn't what I was after. Alright, so there's still a little bit of light left, so I'm going to pack up and see if we can find another tree. Right, so this is actually absolutely stunning right now. I am so fucking excited. The sunset is really going off. It's actually like a total burner, and it's giving a really nice warm glow right now, making a really soft, beautiful light on everything. Not just in the sky, but it's all over the ground and the trees and the Badlands. And so it's making this this photo really awesome. My legs are absolutely thrashed after bushwhacking through this, but I found a really nice pair of trees right against kind of some of the main Badlands out here, some of the biggest buttes that have the Badlands on them. So it's an absolutely awesome composition. I'm really happy with it, and we'll see how it comes out. And so as you can see here, I am again going to f18 to ensure that everything in the frame remains in focus. So what I really liked about the composition here is how the rock fall on the right-hand side of the image almost naturally frames the main tree in the photograph. It just kind of naturally cradles it and gives it a nice framing. And then you can see just above the smaller tree on the left-hand side of the image, the Badlands naturally come down and just give a nice visual flow to the photograph. If you'd like to see how I edited this photo, stick around because I'm about to do just that. I am back from that awesome trip out to Escalante. I am incredibly thrilled with the experience and the photos I captured. Not too thrilled about the dirty shoes, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and get into editing one of the photos we took. So we can see over here in the upper left-hand corner the settings that we shot this at, which was 0.5 seconds at f/18 and ISO 800. And that was shot at 247 millimeters. So I shot it at f/18 because it was such a long focal length, which diminishes your depth of field when you're shooting at these long focal lengths. And I wanted everything to be sharp and in focus from front to back. You may ask or be wondering why I did not focus stack this at a lower f-stop. And while that may have technically been sharper, focus stacking with telephoto lenses can often be a little bit tricky, and due to the focus breathing that is just a natural part of the lenses, can sometimes leave weird edges around things. So I figured, just make it easy on myself, I'm just going to do f/18 and be good. It was a shot at ISO 800. I think I actually could have probably gone up to 1600 to knock down this shutter speed a little bit lower. When I zoomed in, I could see that the images of the leaves, or the edges around the leaves, are a little bit soft just due to the wind. So it's kind of a balancing act. But anyways, let's go ahead and start editing this photo. So one of the first things that I noticed about this photo is all of this junk and distraction down here at the bottom. It is not very attractive, so I'm going to hit R, which is my hotkey for crop, and I'm going to just pull this up. Something like that, and I'm going to hit enter to confirm that and be good to go. Next, I'm going to change my picture profile. Right now it's on Adobe Color. I'm going to change this to Adobe Landscape, which is going to give me a little bit less contrast, but a lot more saturation. It's just a starting point to work with. And then it's a little bit dark, so I'm going to increase the exposure so we can see what we are working with. As I do that, I can see that the photograph is overwhelmingly cool. It's got a very blue tint to it, or a blue color balance. So I'm going to change this and increase our color temperature to make it look more like I saw with my naked eye. It's looking all right. And that is honestly it for our global adjustments right now. I can immediately go into some of the localized adjustments that we're going to do with our masking panel. So let's jump over to our masking panel, open it up here, and we are going to start off with a radial gradient. One of the first things that I want to do is make sure that these trees are the focus. I want the viewer to really focus on these trees. I want to make sure they are a focal point of the image, and I can do that just by using the knowledge that our eyes are attracted to bright things, and just make a big old radial gradient right over the trees and brighten them up. So let's click on radial gradient, and I'm going to make a big fat one just like this. Let's kind of tilt to the side to cover both of these trees, and then I'm going to zoom out, make this even bigger, more of a tilt, something like that. And then I can just go up to our exposure. I'm going to increase that a little bit, and I'm going to increase our blacks a little bit as well, and increase the color temperature like +5 or so, just like that. And then now I'm going to do the complete opposite. I brightened this area right over the trees, and now I'm going to darken the area around the trees. That's going to, again, help make them the focal point. It's going to make the image pop a lot more and just give your eye somewhere to look. It's going to create some visual flow. So I'm going to go over to these three dots here, click on them, and then say duplicate and invert the mask. It's going to go just like that. And now I can take the exposure and start bringing it down. And I'm going to bring it down quite a bit, like over one stop here. And then we're going to go ahead and toggle these masks off and then on again, and off and then on. And you can really easily see just two simple masks didn't do a whole lot of editing, but it had made a huge impact on the photograph. So let's go ahead and fill the screen again here. And something I want to do with this photograph is try to get rid of some of the greens in the tree here. I want it to look a little bit more fall. Maybe it's cheating, I don't know, I don't care. Let's go ahead and open up our masking panel again here, and we're going to do a color range adjustment. I'm going to zoom in over here. I'm going to pan over and see if I can grab a nice green section of the tree. And if I zoom on out, we can see that it has selected all of the green leaves. It's also unfortunately selected quite a bit of greenery in the bottom of the photograph, and I don't necessarily want to change that. So I'm going to click on my mask and I'm going to say subtract with a linear gradient. And I'm just going to drag up like this, hold shift to lock it in place. And there we go. We can see I have removed the subtraction, or the selections, excuse me, for the mask from the bottom. And now I'm only selecting the tree. Then we can go ahead and change the hue of the green towards yellow. And we can even add a little bit of color temperature to that. And let's look at that mask. Off and then on again, off and then on again, and it looks like peak fall. All right, so another thing I like to do with my fall color images of trees and things like this is to add a little bit of rim light to the trees. This helps separate it further from the background, adds more depth to the image, and just makes the tree pop a little bit more, just adds a little bit more visual interest. So I'm going to add this rim light by creating a new mask. I'm going to do a color range again, and I'm going to select a portion of the tree right in here. And you can see it has selected the trees quite nicely, but has also selected the background. So I'm going to use this refine tool, slide it to the left, and see somewhere right about there. That's looking good. Of course, though, I don't want to affect all of the yellows. I just said I only wanted to add a little bit of rim light. So I'm going to intersect this mask we created with another mask. We're going to intersect it with a brush, and we're just going to brush around the rim of the tree to add light there. So I'm going to hold down Option, click on this button that says Intersect, and we're going to choose Brush. I'm going to change the flow down to around 30. And I'm going to have the feathering all the way at 100. And because the sun was setting on the right-hand side of the image, I am going to add my rim light on the right-hand side of the tree. Something like this. I'm just going to brush hard on the edge and then feather it, get it weaker as we go towards the center of the tree. Something like that. And I'm also going to do it to this little baby tree on the left here. Just like this. And then we can go ahead and take our whites, start increasing those a little bit. Maybe if I take the exposure up a little bit as well. And then let's go ahead and see that before and the after, and the before and the after. Again, super simple way just to add a little bit more visual interest and a little bit more visual depth to the photo. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit and kind of think about what else this photograph might need. I think I like a lot of it so far, but maybe I want to just make these yellows a little bit more yellow. Maybe punch those up a little bit more. Let's go ahead and try a new tool that recently came out, which is the point color tool. So I can go ahead and grab this sample spot color. It's just a little eyedropper. We're going to hover over somewhere in the yellows, something like this. Click OK. And then we're going to use this range. I'm going to click on Visualize Range here. It's going to show you what the range of yellows we selected. And I'm going to increase this a little bit more. So I'm going to increase it all the way to 100. And then I'm going to increase the saturation here. I'm going to deselect Visualize Range so we can see what's happening to the entire photo. Let's go ahead and increase the saturation, make this pop a little bit more. Something like that. I think that's looking good. And we can see the before and the after, and the before and the after. A little bit more subtle, but makes the trees pop out a little bit more. So I think we're starting to look pretty good with the trees and with the background, but maybe I want to work on some of the shrubs down here in the foreground. And you know, this point color is really good to affect all of the colors in the scene. But if I'm just wanting to affect one specific area, I'm going to have to go back into my masking panel. Let's create a new mask. Again, we're going to choose a color range, and we're going to zoom in a little bit and choose something down here. I want to lighten up these oranges a little bit. So I'm going to select a color range down here. And of course, it selected quite a few of the leaves in the trees and then some of the orange rocks in the background as well. So I can remember, I can intersect this mask with something. I'm going to hold down Option, click on Intersect, and we're going to do a brush this time. And I'm just going to brush in these orange sections. I'm going to zoom in so I can more easily see how this is affecting the image. Let's go ahead and increase the whites of these a little bit. And we're going to take down the saturation a little bit. Make sure that it's not competing necessarily with the crazy trees. So let's look at that before and after, before and after. That looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom back out. And then I'm going to do something that I do to quite a bit of photos, and that is add a little bit of clarity. It doesn't usually look good around the entire image though. I'm only going to start adding this clarity to the highlights. And I can do that with the masking panel. So let's create a new mask. This time we're going to choose a luminance range. And we are going to only target the highlights of the image. Just like that. So it's feathered all the way to 100, and my selection is just on the high end for the highlights. And now, if I scroll down and start increasing the clarity, it starts adding just a more subtle look overall, and it doesn't have that 2007 filter that I applied to everything look to it. So let's go ahead and do maybe like 40 or so. Let's look at the before and the after, the before and the after. You can really see it on the tree and the foliage down here. For those of you at home, or those not watching in high res, let's go ahead and zoom in, and we can see the before and the after, the before and the after. It just gives a little bit of a punch to kind of the edges and of the foliage in the front, and then also kind of the texture in the background. So things are starting to look pretty good, but if I zoom all the way in here, I can still see the image is a little bit soft. Because I shot at f/18, it's not exactly the sharpest f-stop to shoot at. It was also shot at 0.5 seconds and ISO 800. It's a little bit grainy, so I'm going to add a bit of sharpening to our image. Let's go down to our detail panel, and let's go ahead and add some sharpening. Now, the first thing I'm going to adjust is the radius. And this is a little bit of a trick. Something you can do on most sliders in Lightroom is to hold down Alt or Option. And as soon as you click, you can actually then have this gray overlay that shows you what is being affected. And if I change that radius all the way to 0, I can see it's not applying as much as I want it to. But if I change this up, bring it up, I can now see it is applying quite a bit of sharpening. Or excuse me, the radius of where things are being sharpened is much wider. And so I can even visually see, as I slide this over, I actually like it more around 2. I think it looks quite a bit better. Detail, this is something that trips up a lot of people. This is essentially just deciding whether it wants to add detail or add sharpening to smaller portions of the image or just the big edges. So in this case, let's go ahead and hold down Alt or Option. And I actually like the look of detail down low, almost at 0, like 10 or so. And then I'm going to increase our sharpening by quite a bit, maybe all the way up to 80 something. And then we can see this, the before and the after, and the before and the after. And you can see it's a lot sharper now, and just I can see the details and the leaves better. Of course, that has also accentuated the amount of noise throughout the photograph. It's sharpened the noise as well. So I can take this masking slider here, hold down Alt or Option, and I'm going to slide this so it's not sharpening every little bit of noise, it's only hitting edges of things. And then I'm also going to change our luminance noise reduction somewhere like that, around 20 or so. And then we can turn this off and then on again and see I've reduced the noise, added some detail, and it looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and zoom out here and say I think I'm almost done with the image, but I want to add just a little bit more punch to it. And I'm going to do that through our tone curve here. And this is a great way for adjusting contrast to a specific portion of your image. In this case, I'm going to add contrast to the higher end. I'm going to increase the highlights a little bit, add some contrast there, and then kind of decrease the rest of it. Something like that. And then we can see the before and the after, and the before and the after. And I can say I am thoroughly happy with this image. You know, I wasn't expecting a whole lot when I went out there. Kind of had a different vision in mind, but this is actually better than what I had visioned in my head. And I am absolutely ecstatic. So very cool. I'm super happy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. Hopefully you got something out of this video, whether it be maybe a sense of adventure to go photograph some fall colors, whether it be something, a useful tip in shooting or processing. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you and bye.